Thank you so much for joining us on CGTN, Rector Marwala. So we know that currently the international community is actively promoting the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. So as a highly transformative technology, artificial intelligence has broad application prospects in many fields, such as environmental monitoring. So how do you think artificial intelligence can contribute to the achievement of SDGs?
No, thank you very much for inviting me to come. Maybe just to talk a little bit about the SDGs. There are 17 SDGs that were adopted in 2015 and are supposed to be achieved by 2030. Coming out of the Summit for the Future that happened 2 years ago, we are off track. Less than 15% of the targets, 169 targets, had actually been met. Now, what is to be done? There are lots of things that needs to be done, but artificial intelligence can be one of the solutions to dealing with the issues of sustainable development goals. I'll give you some of the examples. Let's take the first and second SDG, reduction of poverty and elimination of hunger, something that China has absolutely succeeded in a very impressive way. AI, through high precision agriculture, can actually be able to allow us to be able to increase food production so that we can be able to deal with issues of hunger. Let's look at education, another very important aspect. How do we use AI so that we can be able to improve the way we teach with the rise of generative AI? How do we use AI so that we can be able to increase literacy rates, so that we can bring advanced sciences in places where you are not going to be able to have adequately trained teachers? If you look at sustainable energy, and I have to say this carefully because AI uses a lot of energy and water. But you can be able to use AI to design better energy systems to ensure that we can be able to find a new path to sustainable energy production, for example. And the list goes on, you know. So we need to look at AI as one of the mechanisms, very, very important mechanisms of ensuring that we catch up with the attainment of SDGs, hopefully before the year 2030.
You talk about education. Definitely the rapid development of artificial intelligence technology is profoundly affecting the education industry. For example, in terms of teaching models, intelligent tutoring systems can achieve personalized learning. And meanwhile, in terms of educational resource allocation, online course platforms can use AI to enable more people to access high quality education resources. So what specific impacts does the development of artificial intelligence technology have on the education industry?
Well, it is going to be profound. It is going to be profound provided we do certain things right. I think one of the first things that we need to do is to ensure that we eliminate digital divide. We just came last year from the Summit of the Future where we adopted the Pact of the Future that includes the Global Digital Compact. That is very important. Secondly, how do we use AI in order to tailor-make our curriculum and our teaching offerings so that we can be able to teach material much, much more accurately? When we talk about the accuracy of what is being taught into the classrooms, we need to bear in mind that material that is generated by AI is not always accurate. It's not always accurate because AI uses the so-called maximum likelihood approach, which basically marginalizes information that are not highly represented from the probabilistic perspective. I don't want to get into the statistics of it. So we need to have guardrails to make sure that it works for everybody. But it can individualize education, which is quite important. We can be able to monitor the progress of students individually so that we can be able to intervene appropriately. Now, when learners are learning materials from textbooks that are online, AI can be able to look at their attention span and be able to highlight elements of the book which requires further engagement because the attention was not where it was supposed to be. So AI is already revolutionizing education in a much more profound ways.
Exactly. You talk about digital divide, which is a prominent problems right now emerging, especially among global South countries. So how do you think artificial intelligence can better address the digital divide issues among global South?
Well, I mean, I think we need to understand what the digital divide actually entails. I think it entails literacy itself. How do we make people in the global South and also in the global North to be AI and technologically literate, you know? Very, very important. AI can play a critical role. I think we need to make the understanding of AI almost compulsory for all learners as a matter of literacy. Literacy is no longer the ability to read and write. It includes the ability to handle complex technologies such as artificial intelligence. But we also need to do other things. We need to deal with the issue of data. Because you cannot breach the digital divide unless you ensure that data is available. Data meaning the ability of people to connect to the internet. Data meaning that materials that ought to be learned have to be in the digital spaces, coming from the global South with many languages. We do know that many of our languages are not digitized, which basically means that the digital divide is not addressed in that context. Access to resources, whether they are computing resources, are very, very important. Normally, these AI systems require large databases that have to be running in countries. And unless we deal with that issue and ensure that all these data centers are not just located in the global North, but are also located in the global South, quite important. And I also think another issue that is important when it comes to the issue of the digital divide is really the issue of how do you use these tools to improve the lives of people. And now this is the teaching of the utilization of these technologies to improve economies, to improve education, and to improve all aspects of our lives.
And we know, Rector, with the rapid development and application of artificial intelligence worldwide, the issues of fairness has become increasingly prominent. So what role does international cooperation play in promoting the fair application of AI?
Well, it is absolutely very, very important. I have to also put it forward that when it comes to the governance of AI, some of the governance must be done by industry, you know. Some of the technical standards can only be done by technical experts who are the experts themselves. Some of these standards must be done at the country level. We have been impressed by the governance models of the Chinese government. It's an example of governance happening at a country level. But some of them must happen at the international level. You can't deal with the crucial issue of cross-border data flow unless we cooperate as a globe. I think this is very, very important, you know. So the role of ensuring that we use international cooperation to make sure that we bring fairness is quite crucial. I mean, let's just talk about issues of access. We are not going to have access to the necessary infrastructure if we do not cooperate as countries, you know. Let's talk about issues of safety of these technologies. We are not going to ensure universal safety of AI unless everyone, whether you are a developer of this technology, irrespective of where you are, whether you are the user of this technology, irrespective of where you are, if none of those people are actually taught to respect the good values of AI, then we are in trouble. And as a United Nations official, I think the values of AI must be based on the UN Charter. It has to come from the UN Charter. Whether we are talking about algorithmic transparency, whether we are talking about the balance between safety, security, and accuracy, you know, whether we are talking about issues of how do we make computational infrastructure accessible to all, whether it is high performance chips, whether it is data centers that are sustainable, using energy that is renewable, responsibly using water to cool down the data centers. All these issues require international cooperation.
International cooperation is definitely key in driving the artificial intelligence development forward. But in recent years, we've noticed some regions around the world have implemented restrictive measures, such as export controls in the field of science and technology. In key technology areas such as semiconductors and quantum computing, they have hindered the technology innovation and acquisition and cooperation in some countries. So, as a UN official, what is your view on such restrictive behaviors in the field of science and technology?
Well, I mean, our primary role is to bring the world together. That is why we are called United Nations. Our primary role is to create a platform so that countries can have a dialogue and find a solution that is beneficial to all. The principle of we are in this together is very important to us, whether it is to deal with issues of climate change. Unless all of us pull in one direction, then we are in trouble. Whether it is the issue of ensuring that AI maximizes the benefits, its benefits, and minimizes its problems. Very, very important. I think we need to remind ourselves of the UN Charter and go back and understand that we have to work together as United Nations.
Exactly, working together as a United Nations. And altogether, we've noticed when we talk about AI, one topic is such a global sensation that is China's large AI model, DeepSeek, which is making such a global sensation. So how do you view China's DeepSeek, and what do you think its impact on the global AI ecosystem?
Well, I mean, I think DeepSeek is a good program. I think, for me, it actually reminds us of something that we were beginning to forget. In this craze for achieving high performance AI, we had forgotten that we need to make these AI systems efficient. I think this is very important, because the energy utilization of AI technology, without going back to the basics of efficient computing, is unsustainable. The water usage of AI, which is humongous, is absolutely going to be, unless we remind ourselves of efficient computing, then we're in trouble. So DeepSeek obviously is cheap, which basically means that it seems that it has been able to crack the computational efficiency dilemma that we seem to have forgotten. I personally actually work in the area of computational efficiency. As we run these large-scale Monte Carlo simulations to be able to build better AI, I think DeepSeek reminds us that you can actually make those computationally expensive algorithms cheap without necessarily compromising on the accuracy of the algorithms themselves.
You know, AI is such a controversial topic. It is a double-edged sword. What do you think is the most urgently in need in terms of ethical issues or legislation? What do you think is biggest challenges in regulating the AI industry?
Well, I mean, I think we need to agree on the values that should guide AI. What are these values? Transparency and accuracy. And very often transparency and accuracy actually are a give and take. The more accurate you are, the less transparent the AI system is, and vice versa. Very, very important. Issues of openness and security. The more open an AI system is, the less secure it is. The less secure it is, the more open it is, you know. And of course, the whole concept of open source AI, which is, by the way, another advantage of DeepSeek, you know, is actually a value, very, very important value. And then the next aspect that we need to worry about is the issue of data. The issue of making data accessible, how data is measured and collected, how it is processed, how it is stored, and how it is used. All these issues have to be governed. The next issue is the issue of algorithms themselves. What algorithms do we use to create what? You know, using fuzzy logic gives you transparency compared to deep learning, which gives you accuracy. These are balancing issues, you know. And then finally, the issue of computing. We have talked about access to semiconductors and so on and so forth. I think there are levels of semiconductors that are so critical for sustainable development that we have to find ways of distributing them across the globe, whether it is in the global south or in the global north. Very, very important. I think those are some of the key issues that I think are very important in this regard.
So how to promote the popularization and the application of the artificial intelligence worldwide?
Well, I used to be the president of University of Johannesburg. And one of the things that I'm proud of from that time was the introduction of a compulsory AI course for everybody. And we did that in 2018. So all the 50,000 students will come and study. It doesn't matter what they are studying. You know, whether they're studying computer science or they're studying psychology, they had to take this AI course. And this is a very important point because the lack of literacy in AI actually limits an individual quite greatly. You know? So let us find ways in which we can make AI knowledge accessible. Accessible means the material must be there, but it must be accessible. If I were to write back propagation algorithms using a partial differential equation, just the way I say it, is not accessible. You have to have advanced mathematics to understand it. For you to make that accessible, you have to write it in a way that my mother would actually be able to understand. And it requires a new form of science, the science of simplifying things without necessarily losing the key elements of that. And then, of course, the issues around capacitating the policymakers who are in our government making these laws. We take it for granted that not all countries have policymakers who are able to understand this technology. How do we, as the United Nations University, and this is the work that we are actually doing, go to a place, and we do that in many parts of Africa, and just go and talk about the basics of AI for lawmakers so that they can go to their parliaments, they go to their governments, and craft legislations that actually make sense and that actually make their countries become prosperous.
You know, the younger generation is definitely deeply influenced by artificial intelligence technology. They are probably the future policymakers. On the one hand, artificial intelligence provides more innovation and opportunities for young people, such as in the field of AI application development. On the other hand, it also impacts the employment structure and skill requirements for young people. So how do you think artificial intelligence will bring, what differences will it bring to younger generation?
Well, it is going to give them more expert knowledge than ever before. That is good. It basically means that if you want to design certain things, or you want to know knowledge about certain things, want to draw conclusions on certain things, you obviously have a tool that will make that easier. However, we do know that there are disadvantages of artificial intelligence. Its impact on employment is something that we need to understand. Not only do we need to understand, we also need to rethink what skills these young people actually need for them to thrive in an AI-driven economy. We already know that the ability to verify information is a very, very critical step in an AI-driven world, because an AI system is going to give you answers, but every aspect of those answers needs to be verified, because the maximum likelihood approach, which defines AI training, simply does not guarantee a perfect solution. So those are very, very important. And so we need to, as we govern AI, we need to ensure that the interests of young people are not forgotten, which basically means whether it is in the governance models, whether it is at multilateral institutions, we need to always ensure that the voices of young people are represented.
Oh, that is definitely crucial to the development of the younger generation. And we know that in Europe, it's artificial intelligence technology development has its own characters. So what is so different from other places?
Well, I mean, I think the big difference is that the amount of computing power that you find in Europe is not as large as the computing power that you find in China and United States. You know, I think that is one thing. And the second part is the amount of commercialization of this technology in Europe is not the same as what you find in China and the United States. You know, but I also want to add my own continent, the African continent. That when we talk about AI systems and the character of AI in specific places, we should not forget that Africa is a big place where AI has to be developed. the Masakane project that is working towards digitizing African languages so that we can have large language models. You have large language models, maybe not at the same scale because of access to computing power, actually are also taken into account.
And let's imagine 50 years after now, since AI is transforming our society in such a dramatic manner. So what impact do you think artificial intelligence on people and the society?
Well, I mean, I think it's going to change who we are. It is going to change the very nature of, let's say, disciplines. And I will talk about a few things, you know. Let's look at psychology. When you went to study psychology at a university, 20 years ago when I went to when I was still at university, maybe not 20 years ago, 30 years ago when I was at university, you will study the psychology of human beings. Makes sense. Human beings are the ones who are making decisions in society. Let us study their behavior. But now, it's no longer a psychology of human being, it's a psychology of a human being who is using AI. What does that mean? How do we restructure the curriculum so that we understand the psychology of a human-machine system? Let's look at economics. Whether it is the principles of demand and supply, it is individualizing it. Mm-hmm. Whether it is the issue of access to information, which economists use bombastic words called information asymmetry, it is going to improve that. Whether it is access to markets, markets generally have been operating not as efficient as they're supposed to be, which basically means they do harm people. They're going to make markets more efficient. And then, of course, in our own interactions, in our workplaces are going to change. And the one who is able to use AI better will actually be able to build better products and so on and so forth. And this is the world that we need to prepare for now, not in the future.
Do you think the future competition among big countries or international rivals will be the application of AI?
Well, I mean, I think that will be aspect of it. But I mean, there will also be issues of resources. Because we think AI is AI when it comes to a computer. We seem to forget that that computer must have rare earth minerals, must have critical minerals, much of it coming from the African continent. And they are all part of an AI ecosystem. And unless we can make that entire ecosystem from the mining of critical minerals all the way to AI actually working, it's going to be a contested terrain. And as an international organization, we need to create a system that ensures that that value chain is fair and it respects the principles of United Nations.
And let's get back to the topic of DeepSeek. Why do you think DeepSeek emerges now? Why not earlier and why not later? Why China has the capability to develop something like DeepSeek?
Well, I mean, China is a big science nation, so we are not surprised that such softwares are coming out, and we would not be surprised if other forms of softwares such as DeepSeek are actually going to emerge out of China. In fact, we know they are going to emerge out of China. What we would actually say is that as these technologies evolve, wherever they evolve, in China, in the United States, they should not exclude the knowledge from the global south. I think this is very, very important. They should be able to utilize fairly data sets from the global south to train these models. Secondly, there's a great deal of knowledge around issues of AI. In the United States, in China, how do we bring the worlds that are not, do not have enough trained people to be able to understand this technology so that they can be able to come and learn about the development of DeepSeek and go out to their countries and develop their own versions of DeepSeek that is able to deal with local issues. So the issue of the Global Digital Compact is very, very important. It's very, very important. The issue of cross-cultural and international collaboration are very, very important. Mm-hmm. And we're glad that we see elements of that. Tomorrow, I'm going to be meeting an AI student from my own country who is studying at Beiyang here, which is an example of how whether it is South-South collaboration, I call it global collaboration, can actually be used to uplift everyone and ensure that no one is left behind.
Definitely international collaboration is key in driving the technology forward. Thank you so much, Rector Marwala, for your insights. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the invitation.